Have you ever looked at an octopus and thought, okay, that is literally an alien? Well, according to a massive stack of recent scientific literature and some wild structural frameworks, you might actually be onto something. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to do a complete forensic audit of cephalopod intelligence. We're going to dive deep and figure out exactly how their biology pulls off feats of genius that rival primates and corvids.
We've got a lot of ground to cover today. We'll start by looking at how the standard model of intelligence is totally broken by these guys. Then we'll dive into their segmented arm processors, the bizarre line transposon convergence, what I like to call the 2-year lifespan nerf, and finally, the multiverse library hack. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The standard model broken.
So to really grasp how weird cephalopod hardware is, we first have to look at the baseline standard model of vertebrate intelligence. This is the physical architecture that you, me, and basically every other vertebrate on Earth uses to interact with reality. We run on a centralized mainframe. Sensory input goes strictly up to the brain makes a decision, and then commands are sent back down to the body. Very top-down, right? But the octopus, it completely throws that blueprint in the trash. They operate on a decentralized, distributed cloud network. They rely on semi-autonomous networks scattered directly throughout their physical lymph. And the sheer scale of this decentralization is mind-blowing. An octopus has about 500 million neurons in total, but a massive 2/3 of them, around 350 million, aren't even in their brain. They are located entirely outside of it, living directly inside the arms. It's a highly distributed intelligence where the body itself is literally doing the thinking.
Section 2. Segmented arm processors.
Let's actually zoom in on those arms because this builds into an absolutely incredible system of local processing power. The 2024 Molecular Atlas from researchers at UChicago and San Francisco State proves something amazing. The arm is not just a dumb relay cable. It actually acts as a segmented processor running its own proprietary software feature. We can call it suckeroptopy. Each arm has this massive axial nerve cord running down it, separated into distinct segments. This structural logic gives the octopus precise, independent control over every single sucker, essentially creating a real-time 3D spatial map right there inside the limb itself.
What this means in practice is a brilliant system of local operations and global strategy. The local ganglia handle all the immediate stuff, tasting, touching, making split-second decisions, while the central brain just sits back and sets the broad strategic priorities over a really narrow bandwidth. The cells at the arm tip are actually neurochemically distinct from the ones at the base. Get this, if an octopus arm gets severed and encounters food, it will still reach out, grab it, and try to feed an invisible mouth for up to an hour. It doesn't even know it's disconnected because it is fundamentally its own independent processor.
Section 3. The line transposon convergence. Okay, so if the arms are the local processors, what about the memory chips? This is where we find a genuinely mind-bending evolutionary parallel between them and us. Both octopus and human hardware utilize the exact same molecular components to power their cognitive learning centers. They're called line transposons. Geneticists usually just call them jumping genes, and they are absolutely critical for advanced learning, memory acquisition, and giving an animal behavioral flexibility. When you put human hardware and octopus hardware side by side, it's wild. The human hippocampus and the octopus vertical lobe independently deploy the exact same genetic tools to process complex memories. In humans, these transposable elements are highly active in our hippocampus. In the octopus, the exact same family of jumping genes is firing away in their vertical lobe. We're looking at two completely different physical brain structures operating on the exact same molecular logic. And what makes this convergence so absolutely staggering is that our last common ancestor was a tiny flatworm-like little guy that lived over 500 million years ago. Everything the octopus brain can do today, it evolved completely independently from us. Biology took two entirely different, diverging paths over 500 million years, yet somehow it arrived at the exact same sophisticated software solution for memory.
Section 4. The 2-year lifespan nerf.
But here's the catch. Despite having this incredibly advanced hardware, there is a massive glitch in their system. It's a severe biological constraint that totally defies how we usually think about intelligence. Look at this timeline. They hatch on day 1, completely alone in the vast ocean. By months 1 through 6, they're already exhibiting rapid, independent problem solving. But by months 12 to 24, total systemic failure and death. That's it.
1 to 2 years maximum. There is absolutely no time for traditional learning to take place. Which leads us to the no-teacher miracle. Every single octopus that you see opening a jar or carrying around coconut shells for shelter or using tactical deception figured it out completely alone. They don't have any of the cultural stacking that vertebrates rely on. Think about it. Humans, primates, crows, we rely heavily on social learning. We pass down tribal knowledge over generations. The octopus has zero cultural transmission. No parents to teach them the ropes, no peers to copy, just a solitary existence from day one. So this brings up a massive, glaring question. If an organism has a 2-year lifespan nerf and absolutely zero teachers, how on earth is it speedrunning cognitive evolution? In vertebrates, high intelligence almost always requires a long lifespan to gather data. So how exactly does the octopus bypass the rules of time? Section 5. The Multiverse Library Hack. To answer that, we have to transition away from biological hardware and get into the cosmic software patches defined by the Unity Paradox framework presented in our source texts. Now, this gets highly theoretical, but it is such a fascinating lens for viewing intelligence. According to this framework, the speedrun works through a thermodynamic tuning sequence that locks the physical biology into a multidimensional frequency. It argues that what we traditionally call junk DNA isn't junk or dormant code at all. It's actually a precise frequency lock antenna. Surrounding water molecules form these chiral hydration shells that act like a strict firewall around the DNA. And this specific architecture supposedly allows the biological hardware to sync with a layer called the D8 species ROM, pulling down structural cognitive patterns from a universal archive, the D5 multiverse library.
I know that sounds wild, but it elegantly explains why the octopus doesn't need a teacher. Its DNA is acting as an antenna, piercing through that chiral hydration shell firewall to download data directly from the species ROM. This read-only memory essentially archives structurally stable behaviors for a given biology. The framework posits that this mechanism is exactly why crows instinctively get crow logic, spiders automatically receive web-building logic, and octopuses instantly access hyper-intelligent puzzle-solving logic. The DNA isn't just the code, it is the tuning dial.
The big, overarching takeaway from all these sources is that consciousness and intelligence might just be thermodynamic laws of nature, waiting for the right hardware to tune into the signal. It's a universal software. It isn't bound to one physical blueprint, whether that's the centralized, laminated cortex of a human primate or the decentralized, segmented nerve cord of an octopus. It simply requires a capable physical receiver. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder about the true nature of your own hardware. If the octopus has managed to build an alien-like decentralized biological antenna to access a multiversal library in just 2 years of life, what exactly is your central brain tuning into at this very moment? What frequencies are we unknowingly downloading every single day? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep observing, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next one.